Hello! We will be going to discuss how magma is formed and what happens after magma is formed, and how rocks behave under different types of stress: compression, pulling apart, and shearing. Magma is defined as a molten rock found below the Earth's surface. It is a Greek word, pink ointment, which has a mixture of liquid rock, minerals, and dissolved gases. Magma is primarily a very hot liquid which is called melt. It is formed on melting rocks in the Earth's lithosphere, which is the outermost shell of the Earth, made up of the Earth's crust and the upper part of the mantle, and the ionosphere, which is the layer below the lithosphere. Magma develops within the mantle or crust. When the temperature, pressure conditions favor the molten state, magma rises toward the Earth's surface. When it is less dense than the surrounding rock, and when structural zone allows movement, magma develops or collects in areas called magma chambers. Magma can remain in a chamber until it cools and crystallizes, forming igneous rocks. It erupts as a volcano or moves into another magma chamber. After magma is formed, it forms lunatism and volcanism. Also, magma is formed, it turns into rocks called igneous. How rocks behave under the different types of stress. With all the movement occurring on Earth's surface, slabs of crust smashing into each other, sideways movements along faults, magma rising through solid rock, it's no wonder that rocks experience stress. Rocks respond differently to different types of stress. First stress is compression. Compression is a type of stress that causes the rocks to push or squeeze against one another. It targets the center of the rock and can cause either a horizontal or vertical orientation. In horizontal compression stress, the crust can thicken or shorten. In vertical compression stress, the crust can thin out or break off. The force of compression can push rocks together or cause the edges of each plate colliding to rise. Mountains are a result of high-impact compression stress that resulted when two plates collided. The second stress is tension or pulling apart. Tension or pulling apart is the opposite of compression. Compression forces the rocks and crust to collide and move together. Tension forces the rocks to pull apart. Tension can happen in two ways. Two separate plates can move farther away from each other, or the ends of one plate can move in different directions. Some scientists think tension stress caused the one massive continent, Pangaea, to break off into the 7 continents of the world. The third stress is shear. When shear stress occurs, the force of stress pushes some of the crust in different directions. When this happens, a large part of the crust can break off, which makes the plate size smaller. Shear stress happens more often at plate boundaries and usually occurs when passing plates rub against each other as they move in opposite directions. The friction of a shear stress at the edges of the plate can cause earthquakes. That's all, and thank you for listening.